Prepare to experience the strongest radio allowable by law. Secrets will be revealed. Myths dispelled. From the studio gym where excuses never apply, it's Superhuman Radio with your host, Carl Lenore.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Superhuman Radio. Today is Tuesday, which means it's the Blueprint Power Hour, where we do our best to answer your questions about training, nutrition, drugs, supplements, and anything that you really want to talk about. Off-topic subjects as well are welcomed. We'll give you our opinion as best as we can. We already have people signing on and joining us. Let's see here. So Richard Miller says that we are the Rocky and Mickey of health and fitness world. Let's do this, gentlemen. I at first I thought he meant Mickey Mouse. I was like, and Rocky the Flying Squirrel? No, but now I get it. Rocky and Mickey from the movie Rocky. Before we get started, I have to thank our title sponsor, and that's Legendary Foods, makers of the Tasty Pastry. If you haven't tried it, you're missing out on the single best sports nutrition snack to ever be produced. I say that unabashedly with complete honesty. You will not be able to stop eating them because they taste so great. And the fact that they're good for you is just an aside. Your kids will love them. I keep telling people that's the acid test. Your kids will not eat a healthy protein bar. If you send it to school with them, it will come home with one bite out of it. And they'll say, Mom, Dad, that thing sucks. I don't want to eat it. But you will have to fight them for the Legendary Foods Tasty Pastry. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary. Use the code SHR10 to save 10% off. Remember, less than 1 gram of sugar in these. That is astonishing. And that is only trumped by the fact that there's 20 grams of high-quality protein. Check them out. Legendary Foods, shrnetwork.biz/legendary. Use the code SHR10. Without further delay, we get Rob up here and play his music.
Calling all Blueprint Army. Fall in line. It's time for the Blueprint Power Hour with Coach Rob Regish on the Superhuman Radio Network.
I got to speak to this real quick. Sean Wasson says he just sucked down his second Magic Mind, loving it so far. Dude, be careful. There's 10,000 IUs of vitamin D in each one. I was doing 2 a day, and my 25 hydroxy levels got up to 140.
Yeah, it can interfere with taurine metabolism too, so your heartbeat can get a little funky.
Vitamin D can?
Yeah, if you go too high in it. Actually, I'm sorry, calcium. Yeah, my heart was skipping beats, and I was taking a ton of D. I dropped it, and sure enough, a couple of days later, and then I read more about it. Yeah.
Don't do 2 a day, Sean. Stick with 1. I'm telling you, if you need another boost, then have a little something with a little caffeine in it. And I've actually, he said second day of it. Hold on. He said, sorry, I should say second day of it. Okay, gotcha. That's okay. In fact, I've spoken to the makers and said, hey, you should probably make that 5,000 IUs because there's a lot of people who want 2 a day. I was using 2 a day because I'm an animal. and nothing is ever enough for me. Andre Cleanhouse is here with us from South Africa. Looking forward to the show. We're glad you're here. Carrie Kruger is now an employee of Superhuman Radio.
Yeah, show notes, right?
Yeah, she's doing the show notes, and she's getting things worked out. Bobby Cooper said, that's what I thought, Bobby. He said, I was thinking Rocky and Bullwinkle, too. Yeah, so when I saw Rocky and Mickey, I was thinking Rocky the Flying Squirrel, which is what Bobby is speaking to, and Mickey Mouse. I was like, that's not a compliment, but now I understand. Oh, and look who's here. The longest question award goes to Rob Robertson. We're going to read his question this morning at the top of the show. Hello from Scotland. I want to visit Scotland so bad. I really do. Hopefully when all this nonsense about COVID is up and you don't need a vaccine, I'll be able to go there someday. And I can't read this guy's name, but he says hi, I think. It looks like it's a Middle Eastern script, so I don't know your name. I'm sorry. Post your name and we'll give you a shout out. How are you, Rob?
Well, as I told you before we got on air, I'm itching like crazy. I have developed somehow a rash, body rash, primarily on my upper body, a little bit on my legs and neck, but it has been driving me crazy the last few days. So I'm sitting here swimming in hydrocortisone cream, and if I sound a little off, it's because I also have some Benadryl in me, trying to get this under control. Yeah.
There's a lot of suspicious rashes right now. I've come to the conclusion there may be some fallout from the shedding of people who've gotten vaccines. I really believe, because I know a lot of people who've never had rashes, and all of a sudden they have a rash and they can't figure out where it came from, and they can't get it to go away.
Yeah, a lot of possibilities. So, you just have to, I guess, process of elimination. Can't do that on the shedding, but things like laundry detergent and so forth that we made a switch on might be the culprit. We'll see.
You realize that AIDS, which has been HIV, which has been pretty dormant since at least the 80s. Is now come back with a new variant. And there are scientists out there like Dr. Robert Malone who predicted this and are now saying it's because of the vaccine.
I read that article by him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very interesting. Excuse me.
I posted something on Instagram and Facebook today that I said greed is not ambition. Greed is not motivation. Greed is not, a lot of people think that greed is driven by ambition. It's not. It's driven by fear. The people who practice greed are afraid. So they want to control everybody because they're so afraid. And what we're seeing today is nothing different than we've seen over the past thousands of years, where there's been a governing class and a working class. And it's all about greed. But the greed that we're seeing today is so much greater than ever before. You have politicians and you have government officials that are making buku bucks right now. They get it. They are. I mean, I'm going to say this and people are like, well, there's no proof of that. And then 10 years from now, there'll be proof. Just like everything else that we said 2 years ago at the onset that we got punished for, I had shows taken down for, and now it's all coming out that it was true.
Yeah, isn't that funny? Huh?
This is all greed driven. This is all about people getting as much money and power as they can. But I'll tell you something else that's makes me feel good. Greedy pigs have always gone down. They've always gone down. Hitler, Mussolini, they get dragged through the streets, they get killed. And that's going to happen again. It is. And that's the only thing I say, you know what? Be greedy. Do what you're doing, because eventually people will rise up and take you out. They will.
And
one way or the other, whether it's through the law or physically.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you're seeing now on both counts. The lies are being exposed and people are rising up. Look at those Canadian truckers, God bless them. So, hey, hopefully we get out of this with as little damage as possible. But you know what's happened, and unfortunately, it's probably not going to be the case.
I think Rob. So Bobby Cooper said, "Tell Rob to only scratch that shit at home. Going out to scratch itches gets expensive." But I think he's talking about something else.
Yeah,
I really do.
Rob gets everything at home. You don't have to worry about that. Very lucky in that regard.
So our first question actually comes from Rob Robertson, and I'm going to put this up, but I'm going to go to a separate page because it's pretty long. So here we go. I'll do my best not to mangle it. I've been a long time listener to the show, starting all the way back with Off Topic with Aaron Singerman days. I hope that give me enough street cred to get my question read on the Blueprint Power Hour. I also believe that your insights could help others. I've been weight training for 32 years. I'm 59 years old. I eat a high protein diet, supplement with a lot of different supplements that have been recommended on the show, and I'm on HRT. The last 2 years have been difficult. My capabilities in the gym have declined by a substantial rate. The delayed onset muscle soreness in the days after a 35-minute circuit training workout that consists of 20 minutes of cross trainer and exercise bikes, low intensity, high rep circuit style training leaves me with extreme brain fog and crippling aches and pains for days after. There is no progress in the gym, only diminishing returns. On top of that, it takes 3 to 4 days to recover. My thought process goes something like this. A weight trainer, as weight trainers, we have trained our bodies to maximize our muscle fiber recruitment. The more decades we do this, the better we learn to use all those fibers. But we're also teaching ourselves to use some fibers, more fibers than we need in simple tasks. Example, if I walk from the car park to my office, my glutes get pumped. This tells me I'm using more glute muscle fibers than I need to for the task. And as a result, maybe I am constantly fatigued from all the simple tasks of the day. I have a workout and become even more fatigued, and as a result, feel like crap most of the time. Sleeping becomes more difficult as the fatigue, stiffness, aches often wake me up. I know what's wrong with you, brother. I know exactly. I'm going to ask you a question since you're here, Rob. Do you feel at night, do your muscles burn like you just ran and you've got a buildup of lactic acid? Sleeping becomes more difficult as the fatigue, stiffness, and aches often wake me up, making recovery even more difficult. I know many will say, I know 60, 70, 80-year-olds that are deadlifting, squatting, or doing high intensity body weight routines and feel great. But from my viewpoint, that ain't me. And I ponder that they might be exceptions rather than the rule. I know that an exercise program is important in later life, but I have other things I would like to do other than sitting in a heap trying to recover from a 35-minute little girl workout twice a week. In other words, I feel tired and sore most of the time. My question is, does there come a point in every life where intense exercise becomes counterproductive? Yes, if you're battling these kind of problems, it can be counterproductive. And I have some really strong thoughts on this question.
Yeah, my thoughts are this. It's fair to say that there does come a time in everyone's life when intense exercise becomes more difficult. But no, I don't believe properly performed, it becomes counterproductive. And let's also qualify, intense is a relative term, right? So something else you can say with a lot of certainty is the changes that happen in a man's body after age 40 are substantial. There's no question you don't bounce back as fast, but it doesn't mean it needs to stay that way and rapidly or even gradually, go downhill from there. It is simply a matter of making some changes. And as you can imagine, you have a lot of options. So first, a little bit about DOMS, right? Delayed onset muscle soreness. It's a natural thing. We're all familiar with it, right? In the 24 to 48 hours and sometimes longer, you feel sore and achy. But that is not quote unquote crippling aches and pains. In my mind, that's something entirely different. And nor is it brain fog. So I'm wondering if it is something other than your workout. It almost certainly is, I think. But I would look into, number one, diet wise. I'd be curious to know what foods you're allergic to and or what foods are inflammatory. If you've never had one of those tests, I would encourage you to get one. Second, poor sleep in and of itself can explain brain fog, right? So that's another area to look into. What it doesn't explain, though, are these crippling aches and pains. So if we're going to sleuth this out, we need to answer the question, what has happened in the past 2 years that's different? And this, by the way, is where taking, having a gym log, training log, and a diet journal pays dues. And I mean really big dues, because you can go back and pinpoint almost exactly when this started happening and what might have been different. But let's think about this. What's been different for all of us in the last 2 years? COVID, right? It's pretty well established people's mental and physical health has suffered. We could talk all day about why, but that's the fact of the matter. And let's face it, worry and panic have been seeded in the population by the powers that be. And it's no secret, our favorite Dr. Fauci and friends saw the advantage in doing that. And that's a documentable thing, by the way. You can look it up. Which, of course, brings us to the sticky issue of the vaccine. Because one thing that's new for a lot of people worldwide is the COVID vaccine. They got one, either voluntarily or under duress, like a lot of people did, or you'll lose your job. So I would be interested to know if you did too, because it just so happens that both brain fog and systemic, sometimes severe aches and pains are hallmark vaccine side effects that are being reported. Go to Medscape, basically a website for medical professionals, and look under the threads of vaccine side effects. You're going to see this running through as the common denominator in a lot of people's complaints and side effects. And being an athlete your whole life, you are very much in tune, or you should be, with when you're off, right, in those areas, because we all have this similar benchmark. Everybody that trains, which most normal people don't. It allows you.
I gotta interrupt you so the people who are listening to the podcast understand that Rob Robertson has already responded. He said, "Yes, I have been vaccinated, 2 shots."
Okay. Doesn't mean that's the cause, but it's good to know, and it's certainly leads to it being a stronger possibility.
And I want to ask, so since Rob is actively answering, when did this all start happening, and when did you get the vaccine? If you could reply with that, so we could kind of connect these dots a little bit.
Yeah. And so, so you've got the vaccine over here. Another possibility is that you're suffering from so-called long COVID. And again, these are 2 of the hallmark symptoms that are being reported. So if you had COVID before, either knowingly or not, right, you had it really bad or you were asymptomatic in the past 2 years, that would be new too. And as an interesting aside, long COVID and its severity doesn't necessarily correspond to the severity of the disease which you have had or have. It's all over the board. Everybody from people that have been hospitalized to people who didn't even know they had it are reporting long COVID symptoms. In that event, it's going to be tricky because, and I've seen this in so many people go to the doctor runs all kinds of blood work, and it doesn't show anything. Right? It doesn't show anything wrong, or at least wrong enough to explain the severity of the symptoms. And many doctors, unfortunately, dismiss their patients as this is simply anxiety. You've got anxiety. Go home. Here's some Xanax. Go home. Relax.
Rob Robertson just posted over a year ago for both shots, had COVID in November 2021. So he's been vaccinated and he had COVID. When did this prolonged fatigue and feeling that your training is eating you away? He said he had mild symptoms, mild fever, and loss of smell. Rob, when did you start to notice that your training was hurting you and not helping you? Go ahead, Rob. I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to say, if you rule everything else out and you really do believe it's as a cause of COVID or the vaccine, I would look into treating that with the help of a qualified doctor who's been treating COVID, since the get-go. And I'm not talking about, your average doctor who has a treatment protocol that is very, very narrowly defined and will not deviate from that. It's too much to go into here, but, as I tried to bottom line it for my dad last time I talked to him, I said, look, stop getting clot shots and get on something that binds to the spike protein or occupies the ACE2 receptor, preferably both. That's going to stop the vascular damage that the spike protein has been causing.
Well, there may be another side to this too, Rob, and I want to inject this, no pun intended. So Dr. Chris Masterjohn came on my show recently, and we talked about a variety of COVID-related discussions, and one of them was long COVID. Long COVID may actually be the result of somehow the spike protein breaching the blood-brain barrier and getting into the brain, and it causes this sense of fatigue. And so if that is in fact the case, then more is going to have to be done than just binding the ACE receptor or protecting the receptor from being activated. You're going to have to look to other therapies, to tell you the truth. If in fact, and no one knows what long COVID comes from, but it's clear that there are psychiatrists and psychologists who are treating people with long COVID. And as a result of that, we're starting to understand that long COVID is in your brain. Think about, so we've done shows probably close to a decade ago about how leucine blocks serotonin, the serotonin receptor, and that fatigue starts in the brain, not in the peripheral muscles. So, I would suggest experimenting with EAAs, believe it or not. I would experiment with them to see if you notice any change in your feelings of fatigue. Because if in fact Chris Masterjohn is right, long COVID is a mental issue. It starts in the brain. You may have to look at different alternatives to help yourself.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with all of the protocols that doctors use. Obviously, I can speak to some of the stuff that my doctor uses and I've read about. But whether it's the vaccine or something else, your best bet in figuring this out is identifying what was going on in those 2 years that was different. And 2 years is a long time frame, but it's not impossible. And I think you already have a good hypothesis from which to work, whether it was the vaccine, whether it was actually getting COVID, some mix of both. And just go down the list and, rule them out by process of elimination. Try to.
So
don't expect the doctor to agree with you, by the way.
The doctors are part and parcel of the problem right now. Finding a really legit doctor today is really hard. So you made a point to say that he does eat post-workout and the morning, the next day. Are you engaging in intermittent fasting, Rob? May not be a good idea. Okay, we're waiting for lots of people are getting in here.
Normally when I get this question, anything related to I have very, very poor recovery, one of my answers is, Synthogen, because that's what it does best. But there's something, that's not the answer here. There's something going on that's causative, that's much different than your garden variety. My recovery is just not what it was at 59 than it was at 39. This is a different ball game.
I mean, my recovery is still good, but I am using drugs. I'm going to be honest. I've upped my testosterone to 400 milligrams. I'm taking 50 milligrams of D-Bol a day right now, I'm going to do it for about 50 days because that's how many tablets are in the bottle. My strength is up. My recovery is up. But I think you're right on the money here. I think that ferreting out the so no, he's not doing any fasting. Good. Fasting is not a good idea right now. Eating every 3 hours is probably a good idea. High protein. I'd be careful about the carbohydrates right now, just so you can figure this out. I'd also try donating blood. I know that sounds crazy, but sometimes by donating blood, you can get rid of metabolic debris. And metabolic debris includes the remnants of the vaccine and the virus. Because remember, the vaccine was supposed to stay in your shoulder.
Oh, right. They know it doesn't. That's for sure.
Well, they're not aspirating. So when they give you the shot, they have no idea if they're in a cluster of blood vessels or just muscle tissue. And so they just stick the needle in and shoot it. And I really believe that years from now, you heard it here first. I've been talking about this now since 2020. When they first introduced the vaccine, I said, how do you do an intramuscular shot without aspirating? I've never heard of this. Like, you wouldn't do it with an oil-based testosterone because it gets into the blood vessels and it travels. How can you do it with the vaccine? The vaccine is supposed to have gelatin-like qualities that keeps it localized in the muscle, because that's all you need is that depot to trigger the immune response. But what we know is the vaccine is traveling. It's traveling to the heart of some people, clearly to the brain of some people, where the blood-brain barrier for some reason is accepting of letting it through. And I predict that years from now, scientists are going to go, well, what happened? The reason there's no consistency in who gets sick and what they get sick from is because they're not looking at the fact that they're not aspirating before they're injecting.
To be an interesting study, but they won't do it. You know that. I'm going to second your opinions there. I think this thing has just been problematic from the start. It does not behave like a normal vaccine. It does not fit the definition of a normal vaccine. In fact, the CDC changed their website to reflect something else. You know, it's just.
I'm glad you invoked the letters of the CDC.
Yeah.
The CDC is supposed to be a scientific organization, but they're not. They're a political organization. The head of the CDC is chosen by the sitting president, and the CDC's job is to coordinate their messages with the administration's desired message. So the idea that we look to the CDC for anything today is laughable. The CDC has either been wrong or been lying since the COVID virus originated. I mean, it really has. They look at how they changed their messaging. It's so convenient now that, oh, well, you know, you could take your masks off after all. Like, we knew that years ago. In 2008, there was a study published for hospitals looking at whether or not surgeons were protected when they perform surgery on a sick patient by the mask that they wear. And the results were no. They're not protected at all. And all we need to do is look at that 2008 study to say, oh, these masks are not going to work. The reason you can't look at that study is because when the whole masks work message came from the CDC, they removed that 2008 study from any of the databases, so you couldn't read it anymore. Now, think about that for a second. The CDC is as corrupt as this administration. They're just working for the administration. Support this message. This is our message. Support it. And the media is horrible. The media is an extension of this administration.
There's no question about it. It's a PR arm of the Democratic Party, or at least has been in the last many years. And consequently, this is not what it should be, which is a discussion between you and your doctor. Not you, the doctor, and the president. Not you, the doctor, and the CDC. This should be a discussion between you and your doctor. Pros, cons. Is it right for me? And we'll see if that's the case here. You know, I wish you all the best, Rob. Share with us as much as you can, as much as you're comfortable with. But those would be my thoughts, and that's my best guess is what's going on.
Rob, reach out to Dr. Chris Masterjohn. If you don't get a response from him, I will email him for you, because I'm sure Chris gets 10,000 emails a day. Reach out to Chris Masterjohn. Try that first. And then if that doesn't work, I'll email him for you and ask him to communicate with you.
Yeah.
Now, like Rob said, he lives in Scotland. They have nationalized medicine. You know, all that nationalized medicine that everybody's so crazy about that they wish they had here, that Obamacare was supposed to deliver. Nationalized medicine just means you don't get the good treatment. You get what they want to offer you. So he said earlier, he said there are no COVID specialists here in Scotland. All we have is nationalized medicine. Be careful what you wish for, folks, because you may get sick someday and realize that nationalized medicine tells you, hey, go home and die.
Right. There's a reason why Canadians are coming here that need certain operations and procedures done. It's not because what they're getting in Canada is top flight, and they've got national health care, nationalized.
Yeah, it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. All right, Rob, we actually took, we have a lot of questions to still cover.
Okay.
Let me just drop this one down. We have a lot of activity from the audience too. Finn Mackey, a lot of people. We will get to everybody's comment about Rob's situation on the other side of this commercial break. So now I'm going to ask you to do me. So right now I see how many people are watching live. I'm going to ask you to stay through the commercials because inevitably, whenever I run commercials, some of you either click out and then come back or something. So stay for the commercials. Do a guy a favor. Do me a favor. We'll be right back with more of the Blueprint Power Hour. Stay tuned.
New Mass Pro Synthogen X2 just upped its own legendary game. To distance itself even further from the rest of the pack, Synthogen X2 now has double the key active ingredients. If you've ever wondered what steroid-like recovery feels like, Synthogen X2 delivers. See why others compare it favorably to powerful bodybuilding drugs at synthogen.com. Mass Pro Synthogen. When you train with it, you'll gain with it.
If you've listened to this show for any length of time, you know that I have struggled to give up coffee for years. Coffee has destroyed my gut and it's impaired my health. Well, I haven't had coffee in months thanks to a product called Magic Mind. Magic Mind is the first nootropic blend I actually feel working. One shot and I'm good all day long. My memory is crystal clear and I'm able to function and have great focus without coffee or caffeine for that matter. If you want to try a product that really works, if you're like me and you want to give up coffee forever, or you just need something occasionally that will help you lift the brain fog, Magic Mind is your product. I promise you that this product you will feel when you use it. Go to shrnetwork.biz/Magic Mind, all one word, and use the code SHR for a whopping 20% off your first order. If you've listened to Superhuman Radio for any length of time, you know I'm a big proponent of peptides. One of my favorites is GHKCU, the blue copper peptide. It has the ability to repair and regenerate more youthful expression of skin cells, reversing the signs of aging. Restore Cell's Stem Cell Awakening Serum, along with their other products, contains potent formulations of blue copper peptides and only the highest quality organic ingredients. Superhuman Radio listeners can now save 25% site-wide. Go to shrnetwork.biz/blue and use the code SHR25. Remodel your skin today. Verso contains potent compounds proven to increase NAD+. NAD+ is arguably the most important molecule in the body, and without it, you would die in less than 30 seconds. It's responsible for a number of physiological processes, one being that it guides longevity genes called sirtuins to direct cells in the body to perform their jobs. NAD+ levels drop with age, and when they're low, there isn't enough to guide sirtuins, so your cells start to break down. This explains why the body ages and consequently wrinkles appear. There is less benefit to exercise, it takes longer to recover, and an older body is not resilient like a young body. Start reversing biological age now. Go to shrnetwork.biz/verso and use the code SHR for 20% off plus free shipping on your bottle of Verso today. Remember those rectangular toaster pastries you used to love when you were a kid? Well, Legendary Foods has just made them better. The new cake-style tasty pastry is like nothing you've ever had before. With 20 grams of high-quality protein and less than 1 gram of sugar, you'll feel like you're cheating, but you're not. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use the code SHR10 to save 10% off your purchase of tasty pastries. Now available in cookies and cream, red velvet cake, birthday cake, blueberry, strawberry, brown sugar cinnamon, and hot fudge sundae. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use code SHR10 today.
Dogs should be powered by fat and protein, not carbs. That's why Visionary Pet makes low-carb, ketogenic dog food for dogs of all breeds and life stages. From kibble to freeze-dried and even low-carb treats, all Visionary Pet recipes are very low-carb, ketogenic, and made with 100% real meat protein. Shop now and use code SHR for 20% off your first order today. Your dog deserves the lifelong benefits of optimal nutrition. Make the switch to Visionary and see why smart dogs eat low carb.
Spit that out right now. This is the Superhuman Channel.
Not only did everybody stay, but we picked up 16 during the commercial break. So that's wonderful. And, I love it. I think it was Aiden. Let's see who did this here. This is R Vasquez 818 on YouTube said staying. Thank you for doing that. It's very thoughtful. Really, I know people hate commercials. I get it, but it's the only way I can make this show happen. Unless people want to start paying a subscription fee, like $1 a month or something like that. That actually would make me a lot more money, to tell you the truth, based on my listeners. But it is what it is. Okay, so let's go through this real quick, because this is going to be the follow-up to Rob Robertson's question. Cola Quench on YouTube says there are some esoteric drugs to help, but colloquially, people have been recommending ivermectin and penicillin to clean up old spike protein. So there you go, Rob. Ivermectin may be something. And then Cola Quench also says Bruce Patterson is the one publishing the most research on long COVID and lasting vaccines. Essentially, he states it's a buildup of the spike in the white blood cells, and that's why I say donate blood. Yeah. Donate to you remember that movie with the Greek family, My Greek Wedding, where the father, everything was Windex. Oh, put Windex on it. Do you remember that movie?
No, I don't. I'm a bad movie guy.
I'm like that guy, but since I'm Italian, I'm like everything can be cured by donating blood and laying in the sun. But unfortunately, we can't always get in the sun.
Well, one other tip for Rob. If I'm not mistaken, quercetin has also shown some promise in actually binding to the spike protein. Now, I don't know that they've done any large-scale studies. There is data out there, though, showing that. So just something to think about. I mean, quercetin's dynamite anyway. I think you should be taking it for a number of reasons, but that's just another one.
Aiden Ray says, just my 2 cents, crossing the blood-brain barrier. Look at fluvoxamine, and melatonin, L-lysine, and may also alleviate potential flare-ups and viruses.
The fluvoxamine is actually being used now to treat COVID patients.
Isn't it antihistamine?
It's an antidepressant, but they are using many different drugs. They're using statins. They're using anti-androgens, if you can believe that, and to pretty good effect too. I'll send you the studies after the show. So look, it's not just ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine and zinc ionophores. It's statins. It's anti-androgens. It's antidepressants. There's a whole world of possibilities out there.
Richard Miller says, I'd pay a subscription fee. Your information is very valuable to me. Thank you, Richard. Thank you. Yeah, nice. Let's get to the next question. Then after this next question, we'll answer some of the live questions that have been posted here. We'll get to everybody's questions, I promise. This is also a very long question, so I have to go to the sheet. Jeremy Powell says, let me get it up here in front of me. Oh, no, this is not that long. I take a lot of stuff for immune function, including lots of vitamin C, but I'm confused as to how much I should be taking, what type, etc. Will focusing on vitamin C give me the biggest bang for my immunity buck?
Well, there's no question that I think that vitamin C is a big player in immune function, but excuse me, opinions vary, right, as to what extent it helps and how much to take and what forms and so on and so forth. Personally, I am a huge believer in C's benefits. And I feel that many people overlook it for the same reason that, when we were talking about ginger last week, it's so common, right? How could it possibly help so much? So since opinions vary so much, I will tell you what I do. and then you can make of that what you will. Prevention wise, I make sure as a staple to get 3 grams of vitamin C a day. Now, bear in mind, this is plain ascorbic acid, right? As most people are familiar with, getting it in the drugstore. It's nothing, right? It's nothing crazy. Um, I favor the bulk powder, but also think the capsules and the tablets are acceptable, preferably in that order. The 3 gram dose gives me enough vitamin C for the antioxidant properties that it has, and you need gram amounts for that, right? Not this. What is the FDA? What's it
60
recommended?
milligrams.
60 milligrams, right? That might prevent
That's enough.
scurvy.
That's just enough to prevent scurvy. That's all it
Yeah,
is.
right. So if you want the antioxidant effects and the boost to your immune system, and it benefits joints as well when it's paired with collagen, especially, you need gram amounts. Now, when you feel something coming on, when I feel something coming on, or you feel downright sick, you're going to find something really curious happens. You can double, triple, even quadruple your vitamin C intake, and that still won't put you in the bathroom, at least not nearly as fast. Basically, you know, when you're sick, your immune system chews through a ton of vitamin C. And before I ever read that in a study, and yes, they're out there, that was an anecdotal observation that I made long time ago. So, which is why at the first sign of anything, I switch over to liposomal vitamin C, and I take 3 grams every 2 hours and I'm awake like clockwork. Boom, boom, boom. So my dosing goes from 3 grams a day to 20 plus, which is quite the jump. But look, it's vitamin C, water soluble vitamin. The worst that's going to happen is you're going to piss it out.
Diarrhea.
All right, exactly. Which is a good indicator, by the way, that you're saturated. So nice job. However, I will also tell you that in almost every case when this has happened, I'm back to 100% in 24 to 48 hours, and I am far from the only one. Matter of fact, when my wife here recently came down with something, I think it was a day after Christmas, she had something, okay? We suspected it was COVID based on her symptoms, but there was no way to confirm it. You couldn't get test kits anywhere. Not that I think they're reliable anyway. Nevertheless, as part of a broader protocol, she did the same. I mean, she hammered the vitamin C. And here's the thing. She woke up the next day fine, like 100% fine. Not a little bit better, not 90% better. Boom, back to full health. And now let me say this. She just didn't have little symptoms either. She clearly had something. Headache, sore throat, nasty sounding cough, body aches, lethargic, tired all the time. She wasn't imagining this, nor was I. She was sick, all right, and there was no denying it. I have seen that same dynamic over and over in everyone who adheres to that kind of protocol for decades. If you're doubting what you're hearing, I want you to look up the works of one Dr. Frederick R. Klenner. Dr. Klenner, even more so than Linus Pauling, should be considered the father of vitamin C. And he did pioneering work in successfully treating polio, hepatitis, and other viral diseases. His stuff is a must read, as is his commentary on how tough a sell it is to the medical community. Because by the time you wind up in the hospital, IV vitamin C is what you want. I've heard nonsense from doctors, everything from we don't have it to it's too expensive to it doesn't work, blah, blah, blah. They'll give you every reason in the book not to give it to you. Make every reasonable effort to get it. And if they won't give it to you, have somebody bring it in or go to the hospital with your vitamin C. Here's the bottom line. No vitamin works by its lonesome, right? There are other compounds, other vitamins and minerals that work synergistically with it. Quercetin, corticosteroids, collagen, all of those things are synergistic with vitamin C. But as an all-arounder, the efficacy of high-dose C, as far as I'm concerned, is a settled issue. It's inexpensive, it's readily available, and it works. And the final point I'll make is this. Most of the studies show that it works, but here's the key. you need to have been taking it prior to the infection settling in. Whenever that's the case, severity and duration of these things goes way, way down. If you wait until you're sick and then you start hammering vitamin C, it'll still help, but not to the same degree. Big fan of vitamin C. I think it should be in everyone's medicine cabinet.
You know, Thomas Whittingham says he agrees with you. He does the same thing, gram amounts of vitamin C every hour until he feels better. I know 2 physical culturists that swear by vitamin C and have been taking it for decades. Porter Cottrell takes 8 grams of vitamin C a day and has since he was a competitive bodybuilder.
Yep.
Michael Hearn takes 10 a day.
That's right.
I think he learned that from Jack LaLanne, actually. Jack LaLanne was a big proponent of mega doses of vitamin C, and I stand to be corrected, but I think Vince Gironda was as well. This was an old-time bodybuilder secret, that vitamin C kept you healthy when you were training harder, when you're getting ready for competition. And you know, a lot of people say a lot of people stopped taking vitamin C when that study came out that said vitamin C blocks mitochondrial adaptation to exercise.
Yeah, right.
So they were like, well, I want my mitochondria to adapt. I don't want them. And everybody just abandoned the vitamin C. Michael Hearn I tried to get him on the show just to talk about this. 2 things that Michael Hearn does that I think are missed. He trains very early in the morning. He eats and then he goes to sleep. When I first started powerlifting, and this is something my ex-wife hated, I would get up in the morning with the kids. I would have a meal. I'd get the kids to school. I'd train. I'd come home. I've had a meal, and then I would take a nap. She hated it. I think that's magic. When you look at a predator, the king of the jungle, the lion, he runs down a gazelle. He eats that gazelle till he's full, and then he goes and finds a tree and lays down under it. I think that's magic. I really do. I think a lot of people. And the other thing that Michael Hearn does, besides go home and go to sleep after his post-workout meal, is he takes 10 grams of vitamin C a day.
Dr. Squat Fred Hatfield said give the same advice. If you can, nap after training. And Dr. Michael Colgan, now that I think of it. So, you know, you're far from the only one. It works. It just works. People have known this for a long time. Modern society, unfortunately, makes it very difficult.
And people don't believe. People are under the impression that unless you get something prescribed by your doctor and made by a pharmaceutical company, that it's ineffective. That's the other problem.
Yeah,
that's the other problem. Yeah. Elaine Remains, who's watching on YouTube, thanks for being here, says, "Can vitamin C help thyroid anxiety? I'm nuts with thyroid." So I'm assuming that you're hyperthyroid. I don't think vitamin C is the way to go if you're hyperthyroid. What do you think?
I was going to say I'm not aware of any research, and I've never heard of C, affecting thyroid either way. So that's a tough call. I think you're right. I think there are better things to look into.
And Elaine says the lady lions do the hunting. They hunt too, but so do they. That's a whoever gets there first kind of a deal. Let's start going through some of the questions that we're seeing online. So Richard Miller says, update. I tried the glycerin for peeing at night, not having any success. Started with 2 tablespoons up to 4. He's getting it from Whole Foods brand glycerin. What, if anything, can I change, guys?
That's he's the only one I've heard.
Wait a minute. So glycerin only fixes spillover of fluids into the bladder at night. But if you have prostate that's giving you trouble, you're going to feel like you have to pee more frequently in general, and it's going to happen at night more than anything else. So now you need to look at.
I can vouch for that.
So now you got to look at your prostate a little bit. If the glycerin's not doing anything, I don't know if you're taking fish oil, but fish oil is good for the prostate. Actually 8 milligrams a night of tadalafil, which is Cialis, will keep you from waking up in the middle of the night if, in fact, your frequent urination is prostate related. So if you've got urgency to go frequently and have a tough time doing it when you get there, even if you don't have a tough time doing it, that's only if your prostate hyperplasia is very advanced. So the you feel sensations in the prostate and the tip of the penis. And as a result of that, you feel like you have to pee. But you may not have such bad prostate hyperplasia that you're having problems urinating, but you're going to get that sensation, I would say. And like I said, the best thing for it is to increase nitric oxide production in the prostate, or get your testosterone levels checked and make sure your testosterone isn't dipping. Because believe it or not, testosterone is good for your prostate. Dr. Samuel Denmead came on my show twice to talk about how he is reversing the most aggressive prostate cancers by giving men testosterone.
Yeah, that needs to be championed far and wide, because that myth is still out there.
Yeah, there's a lot of poor guys that are on androgen deprivation therapy because of their prostate, and it's not doing anything for them. So the next one comes from Tommy D. He says 2 cc's on giagulan, Giaogulan, gynostemma extract for efficacy as an adaptogen. Have you heard of this before? Yeah, you've talked about this stuff, haven't you, Jennifer?
Yeah, you know, he's right. They are adaptogens. They are not certainly the most effective ones that I'd be looking into. The Ginum, I don't know how to pronounce it, but the one
It's pronounced gynostemma.
Yeah. Some of those have also been looked at for, you know, blood sugar disorders and keeping blood sugar more even, so to speak. I would, you know, unless I got them for free, I'd be looking in other areas. You know, look, those 2 things, by the way, they've been around forever, and they don't sell well for a reason. They don't work well. Where things like rhodiola, right, bacopa, those things work and they sell.
Bobby Cooper posted this, and I want to put it up. He says, "God bless all of the truckers." He's so right. You know, my father was an over-the-road trucker his entire life. He was a Teamster. He retired from as a truck driver. Right now, the truckers are doing something that no one else has been able to do, and that is organize and unify. Because we have lots of other groups out there that could organize and unify, but they just can't figure out how to get their shit together. Truckers just said, "Hey, get in your truck, and we're going to go here today, and we're gonna clog the highways." And they're getting ready to do it in the United States, folks. They're seeing what's going on in Canada. I'm sorry to say this, my Canadian friends, but Trudeau's a piece of shit. He really is.
Don't be sorry. It's the truth.
It's terrible. Trudeau doesn't realize that if you hurt the truckers, you hurt the economy in your country, because nothing is going to get delivered. No food, no toilet paper, no auto parts, nothing. Really, that's so funny. What the truckers are doing reminds me of an old joke. All the parts of the body got together and wanted to be in charge of the body. The brain said, "Hey, I'm the brain. I do all the thinking." The heart says, "I should be in charge because I pump the blood and keep the organs functioning." And they went through the list. And then the asshole said, "I think I should be in charge." And they all laughed at the asshole. So the asshole had its feelings hurt. So it closed up.
Oh, jeez.
And then guess what? The brain got foggy because the body couldn't poop. The blood got poisoned. The heart wasn't functioning. And at the end, it says the moral of the story is you don't have to be a genius to be in charge. You can just be an asshole. But the reason I tell this story is because nobody cared about the truckers. We were just demanding our parts. Oh, I need my parts. I need my food. I need my toilet paper. By the way, what's with all the toilet paper? How much do people wipe their asses? But anyway, look at what the truckers have done in Canada. And guess what? They're going to do it here. That's why Biden is saying he thinks that Trudeau is right for calling them terrorists, because he knows in a couple days he's going to be dealing with the same problem. I applaud the truckers, all of them. God bless them all. God bless them all.
Same here. And if Biden doesn't understand it now, he will shortly if he crosses them. The truckers have the ability to bring this country to
a halt.
Its knees. And listen, you know, yeah, some things get delivered by rail, other things come in, you know.
It doesn't matter. Things come in on the boat, but if the truckers don't take it, break it apart, and bring it to the local stores, it doesn't matter. If the truckers don't go to the rail yard and pick up those products and bring them to the individual stores. They sit there.
Right. What do you see on container ships?
Yeah, they're just all out there. They're all out there sitting there.
Yeah.
Nobody can get anything off the container ship.
Yeah, so God bless those guys, some of the hardest working guys in the world, and look at what they've done to them. You know, what was it 10 million GoFundMe try taken away or
We did
refunded?
take the money. They're taking it, and Trudeau is going to make it illegal to fund them. But I don't see anybody doing that to Black Lives Matters or Antifa. They burnt down the friggin' country for months, and everybody was like, "Oh, it's okay, Chaz Chop, it's cool, it's all good, summer of love." But now that it's not your teammates that are winning, now you're pissed off. That's what this is all about. I'm sorry. R. Vasquez, 818, who's watching on YouTube, asks, "Good morning. Please talk about supplementing with R-alpha lipoic acid. What are the benefits? When to take it? What's the dosage? Thank you."
Well, alpha lipoic acid kind of burst on the scene back in '96, I think, at least in this country. It's been used in Europe for years to treat diabetes. And being a sulfur-based compound, you'll notice if you take more than a couple hundred milligrams, you're going to smell it come out of your urine. That's not a bad thing necessarily. Alpha lipoic acid is unique in that it is both a fat and water-soluble antioxidant. It also lends itself well to recycling other antioxidants like vitamin C and vitamin E, extending their duration and punch, so to speak. And if I'm not mistaken, it was 600 milligrams a day. I don't know if it was the R isomer or not, or it was the combined RS isomer, but 600 milligrams a day did wonders for a lot of people that were having problems with blood sugar. And if you think about it, you know, what do they give you? What do they give you as a pharmaceutical for that? They give you metformin, right?
Yeah.
And then eventually you'll be on insulin. Well, you know, lipoic acid has benefits, you know, very distinct and far above and beyond, in my opinion.
Antioxidant.
Yeah, I mean,
It recycles vitamin C, since we've been talking about vitamin C.
Yeah, it's a great product. It's not I'll tell you, when it came to the market in '96, it was expensive stuff. I mean, I bought 50 grams of the powder from Beyond a Century up in Maine. And this is the bulk powder, and it was 75, 80 bucks. And today it's pretty much everywhere. And you can you can even get it in Walmart, although that's not where I'd recommend getting it. The R isomer has most of the research, if I'm not mistaken, on it being more bioavailable.
BASF invested in research into R-alpha lipoic acid because they wanted to introduce it as a drug. They wanted to introduce it as a diabetes drug, but then they realized that they couldn't because it occurs naturally in nature, and so they abandoned it. But the research is all there. Okay, you can get by with as little as 100 milligrams about 15, 20 minutes before a meal. That personally, I think that if you are looking to really manage blood sugar, take 100 milligrams 15 to 20 minutes before a meal, 3, 4, 5 times a day. That'll keep your blood sugar stable. So that's the way to take it. And we used to take it with our post-workout drinks, remember?
Yep. It's effective at a 50 milligram dose. Its antioxidant properties start getting going.
Remember, R-ALA is an insulin mimetic. It's not a glucose disposal agent, which means it acts like insulin, so the pancreas doesn't have to produce as much insulin to get the job done. So by taking R-ALA, helps you shuttle nutrients into muscle faster post-workout without triggering insulin. So I would take it before a meal, and I would take it with a post-workout meal. This one question I want to get to with Finn Mackey, and then we'll take a break and come back and do more, because I know the answer to this already. My wife just turned 43 and was diagnosed with macular degeneration. Is there anything we can do to help? I've looked into near infrared, but I'm concerned that it won't be enough. Yes, I'm going to tell you what she needs to do. Melatonin. Melatonin stops the progression of macular degeneration. It stops it. So now she may never get better, but she won't get worse. And there is some evidence out there that she can reverse it with higher doses of melatonin. If you go to PubMed and search macular degeneration, melatonin, you will find schwack of research, and get her on it as fast as possible because it'll stop it from progressing. Yes.
My grandfather noted that same thing. He was having difficulty. He had macular degeneration, had difficulty sleeping. I gave him a bottle of melatonin and said, try this, 45 minutes before bed. A couple of weeks later, he comes back from his eye doctor appointment and he says, my eyes are better. He says, I don't know what the medication is or was, but I used to have to put drops in his eyes, at night. And he dramatically lowered the amount that he needed. And he may have had, stopped taking it altogether. But that's absolutely, Melatonin does a lot more than that, but it's great for that.
Yeah, melatonin. Just go out to Kroger or some grocery store in your area. Start out with 3 milligrams. Make sure she sleeps okay with it. Some people report at the introduction of melatonin that they have very vivid dreams that scare them. Back the dose down to half, get her used to it, then up it some more. And I would say get her up to about 10 milligrams of melatonin a night and watch what happens. She may actually go to the doctor and they may say, wow, it's not only not progressing, it looks like it's getting better.
Yeah.
Melatonin, it's gold for macular degeneration. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with more of the Blueprint Power Hour. And here we go. One of the best health hacks there is using an infrared sauna with regularity. But infrared saunas are expensive. You have to assemble them, and they require a great deal of space in your home to dedicate to one. But that's all about to change because I negotiated an amazing deal with Helix, the infrared sauna blanket company, so that every one of my listeners can take advantage of an infrared sauna in their home, apartment, condo, wherever you live. Take it with you. Right now, you can get an infrared sauna blanket for just $469. And if you want, you can break it into 4 interest-free installment payments as well. There is no longer an excuse not to have and use an infrared sauna. Go to shrnetwork.biz/helix. That's HEALIX. Use code SHR. Get this ridiculously inexpensive price now and 45-day risk-free. If you don't like it, send it back. But I promise you, you will love it and you will never want to be without it ever again. Have you been struggling to achieve results in the gym? Trouble sleeping through the night? Overwhelmed with stress or anxiety? Look no further than Infiniwell supplements. They have designed products to address specific needs like muscle growth, hormone balance, sleep, and anxiety from the first use. Infiniwell helps you live well. Go to shrnetwork.biz/bewell, that's BEWELL, and use code SHR20 and start living well today. Being superhuman means being conscientious about the choices we make. White Oak Pastures is superhuman when it comes to raising livestock. They're committed to animal welfare, land regeneration, and rural revival. They responsibly manage the entire process from the pasture to your doorstep. High quality, pasture raised, great tasting meat from a farm you can trust. Full nose to tail selections. They even have options for your pet. Go to shrnetwork.biz/white oak and use the code superhuman to save 10% off your entire first order. I would easily say that I am the hugest proponent you will ever meet to doing anything that will improve the quality of my sleep. And that's because sleep is linked to just about every metabolic disorder we see in our population today. One of the easiest things you can do to improve the quality of your sleep is to get a pillow that can be shaped into the exact form factor that allows you to get your best night's sleep. And that is MyPillow. I've been sleeping with MyPillow for a few years now, and I can tell you that when I have to travel and stay in hotels, I don't get a good night's sleep because I don't have MyPillow with me. Right now, you can save up to 60% off of everything offered to improve the quality of your sleep at shrnetwork.biz/MyPillow when you use the code SHR. Or you can call toll-free 800-889-4938 And remember to use code SHR to save up to 60% off of everything at their website. C60, also known as Buckminster fullerene, is the most powerful, most versatile antioxidant in the world. It's been shown in studies to double the lifespan of rodents. We all know the importance of taking antioxidants to slow aging, reduce inflammation, and improve mitochondrial function and energy production. But there are literally hundreds of antioxidants that would cost you thousands of dollars to take every day. I take one. I take C60 from C360 Health. Revive and Rejuvenate are two blends that harness the power of C60. Don't waste another minute. Go to shrnetwork.biz/revive and use the code SHR for 15% off and free shipping inside the United States today. If you'd like a shortcut to better sleep, more energy, and calmer, more stable moods, then you should make sure you're supplementing with magnesium daily. Let me tell you why. About 75% of people are magnesium deficient. This deficiency can lead to higher levels of anxiety, irritability, trouble sleeping, and low energy. It can even contribute to foot and leg cramps while you sleep. Magnesium Breakthrough by Bioptimizers is the single best magnesium supplement in the world. Simply take 2 capsules before you go to bed, and you'll be amazed by the improvements in your mood and energy levels and how much more rested you feel when you wake up. I take Magnesium Breakthrough every night, and I sleep better because I use it. Go to magbreakthrough.com/SHR and use the code SHR10 during checkout to save 10% off and get free shipping. Check it out.
Move over, superheroes. This is the Superhuman Channel.
Welcome back. All right, so let's get back on track with the questions that were sent in previously. This one comes from, this is interesting, with Steve Callops. He says, during the great home run race between Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa, baseball's popularity exploded. How do you feel about the whole thing being steroid fueled? Also, do you think Barry, hold on, this is one of the longer questions. Do you think Barry Bonds should be stripped of his all-time home run record? Was it steroid fueled or andro fueled?
Yeah, right. Andro 50, baby.
Yeah.
Brilliant move by Mark McGwire, leaving that in his locker, right?
Yeah.
So the question about how do I feel about the whole thing being steroid fueled? Well, pretty much the same way I feel about all steroid fueled records. They never really bothered me. I've always taken the position that the only true sport left is the Special Olympics, and everything else. It's, everyone for themselves. And I've got news for you. It never bothered the fans either. Everyone knew something was going on, right? With all these baseballs are flying out of stadiums left and right, and they're trying to explain it, with the lively ball theory or worse pitching or something. But, if you think about it in a way, you might say that steroids saved baseball. Because after the previous season player strike, there was no World Series. If I'm not mistaken, for the first time in history, no World Series.
Well, where did we see this before? Pro wrestling, right? Guys were getting bigger and more muscular. They were juiced to the gills. Everybody loved pro wrestling. And then Vince McMahon says, oh, we got to get steroids out of pro wrestling. And guys became normal size. We've seen it in football, too. There was a period of time where football players were admonished if they were tested positive for drugs, even in the off season, they got little. Nobody wants to see little meek men colliding. I'm sorry. And you know what? Why don't we just stop the bullshit? Everybody's on some sort of drug, whether or not they're being tested for it or not. Let's make the playing field level. Everybody juice up. Do what you want to do.
Yeah, and at least in terms of baseball, after that season, the strike season, the truth is that steroid-fueled performances not only brought fans back, but it brought them back in droves. Look, your average American fan could care less about what these guys use. They're not interested, as you said before, in seeing, a 40 or 50, some guy having a 40 or 50 home run season when they can have 70, right? Or more, and balls are flying, 400 plus feet.
And Rob, think about this for a second. It's complete bullshit from the authorities who are regulating drug use in sports when they'll let a woman shoot testosterone and compete as a man,
As a man,
or
yeah.
let a man take estrogen and compete as a woman. You know, when you see this kind of idiocy, we should have the power to hit a button and go, fire that guy, fire that idiot, that's an idiot, fire that fit. Because how do you justify allowing transgender athlete who are either pre or post op use estrogen and androgens so that they fit a fake body? It's not their body anymore, and compete against people that they shouldn't be competing against. But then you won't let a baseball player who's a man use testosterone, get jacked, and hit more home runs. It's complete bullshit. It's time
Yeah.
to call bullshit out when we see it. It really is.
Louis Simmons was right when he was asked about this. He said, look, man, the whole world's upside down when they're doing stuff like allowing transgenders, and it's crazy. It's madness. And it doesn't matter what the sport is either, right? I mean, what football fan wants to see a 270-pound guy crash into another one that runs a 5-second 40, when instead he can have a 350-pound guy who runs the same 40 in 4.4 seconds?
Right.
You know, the resulting destruction of tendons, ligaments, and bones, nobody cares.
Right.
There's always going to be somebody else. As long as the football gets in the end zone, that's what matters. But back to baseball for just a bit. Important point. Congress and a lot of other people lost. Steroids don't make you a better hitter.
Right.
You can walk into any hardcore gym in the United States, in the world, in fact, and find a dozen guys or more on steroids.
Ron, could you take Ronnie Coleman and put him in the diamond, and will he outperform a baseball player because he's juiced and he's 300 pounds and ripped?
Now, you can give them all the steroids in the world. Not a single one of them can hit major league pitching. Not one. If they could, they'd be playing ball and making millions and looking great doing it. So, but they're not, which should tell you something. The whole fiasco was just silly when they got up there and in front of Congress. I mean, come on, grown men crying on national television. Sammy Sosa's pretending he doesn't speak English. I mean, it was a mockery.
Baseball is very good to me.
Yeah, and all because the vast majority of them, quite frankly, were using something that wasn't even banned at the time. Baseball knew about steroids. Are you kidding me? What, do they live in a vacuum? Did they never see a football game? Are we going to pretend they're not in the NFL either? And here's another important point. This is probably the worst part. Not a single athlete, pro athlete that I'm aware of, went to prison or was otherwise punished, despite President Brandon criminalizing and demonizing anabolics. And he's the number one offender. If you know your history, it doesn't matter what political side of the fence you're on. If you know your history, you know Biden did this. It was a big grandstanding.
Not only did he do it, but he stood in front of Congress and said he would have been a pro baseball player. He was a great baseball player in college, and he could have gone on and been a pro, but he wasn't willing to do the drugs. This guy has been lying and not being called on it since he became a politician. He's a liar. That's what he is. He's a liar. He lies about it. If his mouth is moving, he's lying.
He has a 50-year history of failure, and this is one of his biggest. Because why? Because none of the laws that were enacted, consequently, leveled the playing field. They shouldn't. You know, who did do time? Let's see. Pat Arnold, who cooked up the cream and the clear, and Victor Conti, who did some, minuscule amount of time too, who got them from Pat and then gave them to his athletes. Well, they shouldn't have been prosecuted either, in my opinion. But the fact that they were, and no pro athlete, not one, can't name one, has ever been sentenced to anything before or since, that really says something, doesn't
it? And they're the ones that actually broke the law, right? They're the ones that actually used the drugs in sport and professional sports. I know, it's just bullshit.
All Biden's politicking, and he's not the only one, but he is the chief offender. All of his politicking has resulted in everything that he didn't want to become. It's resulted in an enormous black market that has only gotten bigger. Everyday Joes' lives that are being ruined and turned upside down. And everyday, average Joes who want to put 50 pounds on their bench press and might have sold to a friend who wants to do the same, they're serving prison terms away from their families. They never hurt anybody. Nobody's knocking over 7-Elevens to get their steroid fix. But still, illegal steroid use is exploding. And Biden has no intentions of going back and trying to make it effective,
forget about
because
that.
it was all grandstanding. It was
Look
ridiculous.
at right now. Think about this. There was a period of time that I remember where paraphernalia stores were being shut down. If you sold pipes to smoke weed, if you sold stuff to grind weed, they went after those stores for a period of time back in the 80s and early 90s. Think about this. Why did they do that? Because they said that paraphernalia is being used in conjunction with crime. If you're buying recreational drugs from a dealer in the neighborhood and you're smoking it, then that's a crime, and selling things to help you commit a crime. Biden is mailing out crack pipes. Think about this.
Yeah, I know.
Where are they getting the crack from? Their doctors?
Yeah.
My nephew said to me, Uncle Carl, is he sending out clean crack too with the crack pipes? I says, no. They're gonna these idiots are smoking crack. It's an illegal drug. It's horrible. They make it in their basements. It's garbage.
And he's facilitating.
it. How, you know what? I gotta say something. I got a lot of heat for years because I'm pro-Trump. And every time I posted something about pro-Trump, there were people who came out and just bashed the shit out of me and Trump and everything. How's Biden doing? Are you happy? Are you happy you got this turnip running the country now? I don't see anybody coming out talking about how great he's doing.
Trump never pulled out any of our shows either and censored them. At least that I'm aware of. But here, let me finish with this.
Yeah.
Barry Bonds. I guess if you're going to give everyone else a pass, then you need to give him one too. Now, I don't like him. Hell, his teammates didn't like him. And I was there in San Francisco to see it myself. I would not want my or anyone else's son playing the game like Barry Bonds. But he simply did what everyone else did. He just took it to another level. Look, I was there. The game was tied. In the 12th or 13th inning, he comes to the plate. Everyone in that park is standing up. Two guys in front of me. One leans over to the other one and he says, geez, I hope Barry took his shots today. The very next pitch, he put it in the bay over the right field wall, won the game. Everybody's high-fiving each other. Everybody goes home happy. Do you see how it works? If fans really cared about steroids in baseball or any other sport, the stadiums would be empty. They're not. They're sold out.
Yeah, they'll be outraged by the fans.
So, you vote with your dollars. People don't care. And, they would be much closer to having a level playing field if they just said, all right, guys, use whatever you want. True. What happens to you 10 years from now or more or less, that's on you. But that would be a lot, believe it or not, more level of a playing field than what we have today. And why? Because for the simple reason the dopers are always going to be ahead of the testers.
Let's get to some of these comments and questions, and then we have our last question before we take the blueprint tip of the day. So this one comes from Richard Miller. He says, Coach, can I condition my fighters without running? It seems to affect their sparring, and it takes a toll on their joints and back.
Absolutely. So I'm guessing he's talking about low intensity, steady state cardio, quote unquote road work that boxers will talk about. Anaerobic conditioning for fighters is where it's at. And you can absolutely do that and get them in shape by doing that instead of long duration, right? Low intensity stuff. So anaerobic cardio, we're talking pushing and pulling sleds. We're talking hitting the heavy bag. We're talking about, doing the rope pulls and so forth. Mix it up mix it up and challenge them, and they will be in great shape without the low intensity steady state cardio.
There you go. Elaine Remains, who's watching on YouTube, also says she's Canadian and that my Canadian friends know what I was saying is true. And she's proud to be a Canadian because of the truckers, not Turdo, Turdoh. I guess that's what he calls Trudeau. I know it's horrible what Trudeau's doing. Let's see here. Richard Miller also says that the reason that there's money to be made from steroid use by the trans athletes because they come from a doctor. And that could be part of it. I don't think that's it. I think it has more to do. I think
there's an agenda.
Yeah, this administration is using things to distract us, right? They put these idiots up, like the lady who's in charge of our what is she? The Minister of Health here or whatever. She's
CDC.
a big fat pre-op transvestite. The person that's like a tranny that he put into office with the red mohawk just recently. This is all to get us all bickering and fighting. So we're not looking at what's happening. What's really happening right now is the fleecing of America. And what I mean by that is, on an average year, we spend 20% of the gross national product by our government. That's what they use to run the government. We are at 40% right now. So what are they doing? They're printing more money because you can bet decades from now there's going to be exposés that Fauci made $1 billion in an offshore account, that Brandon and his son are getting money from China currently, but it's untraceable. It's all going to come out. This is about fleecing America. And we're not paying attention because we're bickering about this trans athlete or this stupid rule or shutting down the pipeline and raising, people can't even pay their bills right now. They have no time to fight and fight for what's wrong with our politics.
Yeah, I know. I just got my electric bill. I couldn't freaking believe it.
This is purposeful. What's being done here? It's look over there. Look over there. Don't look over here. What we're doing, what the CDC is doing, everything else. That's what this is all about. That's what it's all about. Okay. Lastly, let's see here. Tommy D says, let's see how long it takes for YouTube to ban this. Oh yeah, I know. I know.
I'm sure it's coming.
LinkedIn, all of them. It's all going to come down. This show's going to come down. It obviously is going to, because we're speaking the truth.
Proudly banned.
If this was a lie, they wouldn't care what we say. Can't thank you two enough for the free information that you give. You guys get he says, hope you guys get the penthouse in heaven. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We have one more question that was sent in to answer, and then we're going to take a break and do the blueprint tip of the day. This one comes from Rick Ferris. You've talked about this before. Does peak ATP or oral ATP work? I'd like to know because creatine bloats me really bad. I load with 30 grams a day, and usually then it just takes 10. It's creatine monohydrate. By the way, will citrate work better?
Yeah, so kind of real quick. Peak ATP, adenosine 5-triphosphate, disodium salt. You'll see it on some labels. And like products, attempt to make using ATP orally active. And while there are some studies showing that there are benefits, if you read those studies carefully, the vast majority are funded by those companies which make those chemicals. So while I don't think those products are entirely without merit, it's something that you need to take into consideration while you're reading through them. Many other independent studies show that oral ATP isn't active at all. Apparently, the body sees it, disassembles it, and renders it inactive. So the question becomes, if you want to jack up your ATP levels, but you don't want to use creatine, are you out of luck? No, not necessarily. There is something called Elev Atp, which is not ATP, the chemical, in an attempt to boost levels. It in a non-traditional way, I guess you'd say, it's a bit more practical, biochemically speaking, because it goes to work via another mechanism. Specifically, It's a combination of what's called ancient peat extract and another compound that is extracted from apples. So in other words, Elev ATP, it's 100% organic. It's not a chemical from a lab. And it works by getting your body to make more of its own, right? Which is a critical distinction versus just swallowing ATP and hoping those levels go up. Although it has been shown to boost 1 rep max strength in at least one study, the real clincher for me was the fact that it prevented performance decrements seen during overreaching, undereating, or a combination of both. And that is a lot more realistic effect in the real world than saying, hey, this stuff will put 50 pounds on your 1 rep max. It's not going to do that. What that tells me is it is putting back on some level, as both overtraining and undereating rapidly diminish cellular ATP stores. Okay. If you really want to drain yourself of ATP, train every day, hours and hours, and don't eat much or eat like crap. That's how you do it. So it's a good start, but my absolute favorite ATP booster, non-creatine, would be orotic acid. Orotic acid helps regenerate ATP in 3 different ways. It is the glue that holds Synthogen together. A lot of you guys ask, hey, what's the ingredient that's causing this? It's still true, it's all of them, but I would tell you orotic acid is that glue. It's been used for years in improving the bioavailability of minerals and other compounds. Magnesium orotate is another way, I guess, that you can get it. We use it in Synthogen, which partially explains why guys rave about the recovery and the work capacity, especially while they're dieting. Anyway, back to creatine. The bloat you're getting almost certainly comes from, 30 grams a day is a lot, right? And then 10 grams a day after that. That's likewise too much, in my opinion. Instead, I would opt for no more than 5 grams a day. Take it with food. If you still bloat after that, I would further reduce it to 3 grams a day and skip the loading dose. It's going to take longer, about 30 days versus 7, but you will be fully loaded and not, hopefully, look like the Michelin Man. Creatine is also sodium dependent, much more so than even insulin. And so it needs sodium, or at least a little bit of it, to hitch a ride to get across the cell membrane, right? So get some sodium. Even, keep it reasonable, but get some sodium along with it. Creatine citrate, I think he asked about, has not been shown to be any better than monohydrate. Even if it was gram for gram, it contains less creatine, right, than mono. So it's not a good buy in my mind either. If you can find it, creatine anhydrous was a great creatine. It might just be what the doctor ordered. Syntrax used to use it in their swole creatine formulas. I remember it there. But I haven't seen it offered, frankly, in years. It might be out there. I don't know. Alternatively, you could use creatine hydrochloride, which it's an excellent product. I use it in Progenitrix, along with a little bit of disodium phosphate for the reasons that I stated prior. So you're not out of luck if you don't want to use creatine. Those are a couple of other things that I would certainly look into. There are others, but frankly, in the real world, those are the things that work the best. They wouldn't be in my products if I didn't think they did.
I want to put this up because this also speaks to something that Elaine Remains is asking about. So Chester LP77 has Hashimoto's and wants to know if thymosin alpha 1, I'm sure he means, can help. Hashimoto's is an autoimmune disorder. Thymosin alpha 1 won't help unless you remove the insult, the thing that is affecting your Hashimoto's. That's almost always diet. I want to say it's always diet, but I'm sure there's an instance out there where it's not. I can't tell you what's causing your problem. It could be grains, but then you'll say, well, I don't eat any grains. But what I can tell you is almost all autoimmune disorders go away when you go carnivore. When you stop eating things that grow out of the ground And all you do is eat meat, chicken, fish, eggs. They go away. There are people posting on Sean Baker's Instagram page every day. My rheumatoid arthritis is gone. I don't have to take any drugs anymore. I thought I had Lyme disease, but I'm better now. I would say if you have any autoimmune disorder, yes, thymosin alpha-1 can help actually make you better and reverse the damage, but you have to get rid of the insult first. And the easiest way to get rid of the insult is to do an elimination diet like carnivore. And I would say that to you too, Elaine. Elaine Remains, because she said that I should do a show. I think this is it for chicks. Oh no, she said I should do a hypothyroid show for chicks. It's not just chicks, as you can see. It's a lot of people. Here she is. You should do a whole show on hypothyroid for the chicks. It's not just chicks; it's men too. You have to get rid of the thing that is causing your body to attack your thyroid first, and it's almost always, if not always, the things in your diet. She says, my anxiety goes through the roof when I go carnivore, but my muscles get stronger. I don't have Hashimoto's though. I don't know why your anxiety goes through the roof. Almost always it's because of drop in blood sugar. You may actually be pre-diabetic. I would ask you to go out to your pharmacy and get yourself a glucometer with 10 test strips and 10 lancets and check your blood sugar every morning for 3 days, add it together, divide by 3. That's your average blood sugar. And if you're creeping up into the 90s, this might be why you have anxiety in the first place, because you may start to becoming insulin resistant. Richard Miller says, carnivore got my CRP from 2.4 to 0.3.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good for you.
My back pain from 10 years of back pain after back surgery, he got rid of it completely.
Right. What do you got to lose? Try it. Absolutely.
She says, probably pre-diabetic. Yeah. Look, when you have problems managing blood sugar, one of the earliest symptoms is anxiety. And people don't realize that. It's because when your blood sugar drops, your brain panics. It goes, oh, shit, we're going to run out of fuel.
Yeah, you see that in people that just start intermittent fasting. They're shaking like a leaf. They don't know why.
Sean Watson says, check out Michaela Peterson. Oh, yeah, that's Jordan Peterson's daughter. Yeah, she had all sorts of disease problems. She went straight on carnivore, and she's all better. I can't say enough about carnivore. I know a lot of people rail against it because they're like, well, it's a zealot diet. It is a zealot diet, but when your body is lost, you have to eliminate all the problems first for it to find its center. And nothing does it better than carnivore. Nothing. Because you won't get nutrient deficiencies. Your body will still thrive. You may hate eating that way for a while, but after a while, you'll start feeling better. And then you can here, she even says it. Sometimes my blood sugar drops like a stone. I can't fast because of that. Exactly. You're not metabolically flexible. That is where your anxiety is coming from. It's not coming from your thyroid. It's not. And then Chester LP says, I will try carnivore when I go when I will go to holiday in Romania. I can get pork and chicken and meat from home-raised animals, 100% no chemicals.
Wow, that's great.
TED Talk wouldn't publish her talk because she was eating carnivore. This is all politics.
These people are there.
But they'll have no problem having they'll have no problem having a vegan on there. And the vegan diet has been shown in numerous studies to cause all sorts of nutrient deficiencies and bone frailty. And this is all bullshit. A carnivore is a great tool in the tool shed if you don't want to do it long term. Right. You don't have to do it long term. You just have to do it till you feel better. Then you can start adding foods in, and then you'll go, oh shit, I feel crappy now. That food is no good for me. It's gone.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take our last commercial break. Stay with us as we do the blueprint tip of the day. We'll be right back. If you've listened to this show for any length of time, you know that I have struggled to give up coffee for years. Coffee has destroyed my gut and it's impaired my health. Well, I haven't had coffee in months thanks to a product called Magic Mind. Magic Mind is the first nootropic blend I actually feel working. One shot and I'm good all day long. My memory is crystal clear and I'm able to function and have great focus without coffee or caffeine for that matter. If you want to try a product that really works, if you're like me and you want to give up coffee forever, or you just need something occasionally that will help you lift the brain fog, Magic Mind is your product. I promise you that this product you will feel when you use it. Go to shrnetwork.biz/Magic Mind, all one word, and use the code SHR for a whopping 20% off your first order.
Dogs should be powered by fat and protein, not carbs. That's why Visionary Pet makes low-carb, ketogenic dog food for dogs of all breeds and life stages. From kibble to freeze-dried and even low-carb treats, all Visionary Pet recipes are very low-carb, ketogenic, and made with 100% real meat protein. Shop now and use code SHR for 20% off your first order today. Your dog deserves the lifelong benefits of optimal nutrition. Make the switch to Visionary and see why smart dogs eat low carb.
One of the best health hacks there is using an infrared sauna with regularity. But infrared saunas are expensive. You have to assemble them, and they require a great deal of space in your home to dedicate to one. But that's all about to change because I negotiated an amazing deal with Helix, the infrared sauna blanket company, so that every one of my listeners can take advantage of an infrared sauna in their home, apartment, condo, wherever you live. Take it with you. Right now, you can get an infrared sauna blanket for just $469, and if you want, you can break it into 4 interest-free installment payments as well. There is no longer an excuse not to have and use an infrared sauna. Go to shrnetwork.biz/helix. That's HEALIX. Use code SHR. Get this ridiculously inexpensive price now and 45-day risk-free. If you don't like it, send it back. But I promise you, you will love it and you will never want to be without it ever again.
New Mass Pro Synthogen X2 just upped its own legendary game. To distance itself even further from the rest of the pack, Synthogen X2 now has double the key active ingredients. If you've ever wondered what steroid-like recovery feels like, Synthogen X2 delivers. See why others compare it favorably to powerful bodybuilding drugs at synthogen.com. Mass Pro Synthogen. When you train with it, you'll gain with it.
Verso contains potent compounds proven to increase NAD+. NAD+ is arguably the most important molecule in the body, and without it, you would die in less than 30 seconds. It's responsible for a number of physiological processes, one being that it guides longevity genes called sirtuins to direct cells in the body to perform their jobs. NAD+ levels drop with age, and when they're low, there isn't enough to guide sirtuins, so your cells start to break down. This explains why the body ages and consequently wrinkles appear. There is less benefit to exercise. It takes longer to recover, and an older body is not resilient like a young body. Start reversing biological age now. Go to shrnetwork.biz/Verso and use the code SHR for 20% off plus free shipping on your bottle of Verso today. C60, also known as Buckminster fullerene, is the most powerful, most versatile antioxidant in the world. It's been shown in studies to double the lifespan of rodents. We all know the importance of taking antioxidants to slow aging, reduce inflammation, and improve mitochondrial function and energy production. But there are literally hundreds of antioxidants that would cost you thousands of dollars to take every day. I take one. I take C60 from C360 Health. Revive and Rejuvenate are 2 blends that harness the power of C60. Don't waste another minute. Go to shrnetwork.biz/revive and use the code SHR for 15% off and free shipping inside the United States today.
You're listening to the Superhuman Channel. We're ripped and we're ready.
Hey, welcome back. Rob just... Oh, sorry about that. We don't want to have to listen to music twice. So Rob just sent me an article that says German TV presenter pushes for mandatory vaccination, then collapses live on the air. I love these stories. I love them.
They've got a picture of her right before she,
her eyes get all wonky. Like right before she pans out, her eyes. Her left eye is looking up for airplanes, and the right eye is looking over here for the dog.
It's a lot scarier than the headline reads. This same thing happened to a comic recently. Some comedian, and she had just said, "Hey, I'm vaxxed and boosted." Boom. I guess so.
But what's even worse than that? Insurance companies around the country are reporting a ridiculously high number of non-COVID deaths
Yeah.
that are pushing their stats above anything they've ever seen before. So a company in Indiana posted a report, 140% rise in non-COVID, non-age related deaths. Like people are just dying. Another company in Oregon published their report, 400% rise in increase in non-COVID deaths since the vaccine has been mandated. Look,
I
folks.
can't find that on any website. I wonder why.
Yeah, of course. The mainstream media isn't even talking about it. Just like you know what else the mainstream media isn't doing? This is so funny. So remember when that guy drove through the parade at Christmas time and hurt and killed some people? They didn't want to say he was a black guy. They didn't want to say he was a guy. They didn't want to say anything about him. They didn't want to say that he was part of BLM, right? All they said was an SUV, like the SUV was fucking driving itself.
Yeah,
An SUV crashed through a park. Well, they're doing the same thing right now with Hillary. Now it's a tech company, hacked the president's computers. But who was the tech company working for? Hillary Clinton. The media is amazing at not telling the truth, even if they have to like twist the words around and make it something else. It's crazy.
Imagine if the roles were reversed and that was Trump hacking into her campain.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You'd never hear the end of it.
Racist, white supremacist, everything.
Hate crime.
Yeah, this would have been a hate crime. You're right, and it really is funny, but not funny. All right, look, we got to do two things real quick, and then we're going to go to the blueprint tip of the day. So first of all, Idarwi, who is watching on YouTube, says, "Hey Carl, just wanted to say thank you for doing SHR. I've listened to a lot of episodes, but never reached out. Thank you." And then Richard Amelie, I want to say Armelli, I would pronounce it. Also on YouTube, another great show, always great, but really killing it today. And Bobby Cooper, my buddy Bobby, says, and it was the second time he assaulted with the vehicle. He's talking about the guy in the remote controlled SUV that killed people, which had no drivers. He was out on bail for trying to run over his girlfriend when he drove through the parade. That's fucking brilliant. That's amazing to me.
Why haven't they locked the SUV up?
Yeah. And you know what? I'm waiting for SUV control laws. Hey, we have to stop making SUVs because they randomly kill people. Like guns. Like guns randomly kill people. Yeah. Okay. Enough of that. So let's go to the blueprint tip of the day. What is it, Rob?
So the tip of the day is why don't more supplement companies stand the test of time? I want you to think about this, because if you've been listening to me for any length of time, you know I'm fond of bringing up the ultimate test, the test of time. And while that applies to many things in life, nowhere are the failures more glaring than in the sports nutrition business. Although there aren't many left. Old bodybuilding magazines, the way we used to get information, if you pick one of those up, they are literally a graveyard of supplement companies that were once, on top of the mountain. So a cursory look through old Iron Man and Muscle Mag and Pump and even Powerlifting USA, which is sadly defunct now too, it tells the tale. Even when it came to the biggest of the big, the vast majority of these companies have failed, right? You're talking about AST Research, Sport Pharma, Mass Quantities, Beyond a Century, Syntrax, Twin Lab, EAS, the list, even Weeder, the list goes on and on and on. So I thought it'd be interesting to understand maybe why. 30 years ago or so, there was this little innovative company out of Golden, Colorado called AST Research. They introduced the first ephedrine hydrochloride product to bodybuilders, that Metadrine 25, followed that up with the first ephedra product, EPH 833, the first GABA powder, and arguably the first commercial whey protein, which was Viapro. It was a whey protein concentrate. Today, they don't even have a pre-workout, the thing that made them. They've declared bankruptcy, from what I've seen, at least twice. And they're peddling a micronized creatine whey protein, and some BCAAs, and maybe a few other things. It has been a stunning fall from grace. And in my opinion, they deserve every bit of it, because you and I have this in common, Carl. They treated both of us like dirt. In my case, solely because I would call them and ask questions, right? I want to know how to best use their products, get the most out of them. Man, they put me on the list and I was shut out. And it was crazy, right? But hey, at least they're still in business. You can call it arrogance or what have you, but they managed to really ruin something special. And it's not uncommon, because right there across the street in Golden, Colorado, was the ever popular EAS, right? Bill Phillips headed this up in the early to mid 90s. Opinions differ, but it's fair to say, they launched the first mass marketed creatine, had a really good meal replacement at one point, Myoplex, and they seem to be poised to take it to the next level with HMB, right? HMB, feels like DECA. Those were literally the words that were used to sell it. And needless to say, it didn't feel anything like DECA. You didn't feel anything. It did nothing. And they were charging 80 or $100 a bottle. Subsequently, Bill left the company. He sold the company, I think, to Abbott Labs. I think Abbott has since dumped him. I have no idea who they are today. I can tell you almost nobody from a strength training perspective talks about them anymore. Sport Pharma, they introduced vanadyl sulfate, those little 7.5 milligram blue pills, right? And later on, they branded something called Vanadyl pH. They had a great thermogenic ephedra base called Thermadrine, rock solid and true to label whenever they were tested, before it was cool to be true to label. They went out of business too. I wish I could tell you why. Mass Quantities was an internet shop. I don't think they ever had a brick and mortar operation, but they were selling bulk pro hormones back in the day. Let's just say they thought they'd never go out of business. As a good friend of mine told them when he got into it with them, let's say on the phone, he said, listen, I'm going to be here long after you guys are gone. They laughed at him. Today, my friend owns what's left of them, including their domain name and website. Same thing. Arrogant people treated their customers, in my opinion, like dirt. Thermalife, remember them? They were more or less the industry standard when it came to top shelf material. They made E-ball, C-ball, T-ball, Vacillate, which was a great protein, among other products. Haven't seen their products in over a decade, maybe. Sports One was a company right here in Connecticut. They bet the farm on sublingual pro hormones and lost. And they lost big. Syntrax Innovations, we talked about them in the past. They made their name on fat burners, adipokinetics, lipokinetics, MM4, stuff like that. And they had Swall creatines and their Trib product, which was really Trib, fenugreek, and Diascorea deltoidea, standardized for furostenolic saponins, was a dynamite product. None of these products are sold today. The only product they make that I can see is a fruity type of whey protein for people that they market to the bariatric surgery market. So, and those are the people that are drinking this stuff.
And let me tell you something, the bariatric surgery people don't want what's healthy. They just want something that tastes good. They don't care if it's higher in carbs and protein. They don't care. They just make sure it tastes good.
They love their artificial sweeteners.
Oh, yeah.
I know that. Twin Lab, you remember them? They were an absolute juggernaut. They were owned by Muscular Development. At one point, it looked like EAS or Twin Lab. One of those two was going to be the new Weeder, the new top of the heap company, right? And it was going to be winner take all. They're still around, but they're a shell of their former selves. And maybe saddest of all was a little company up in Maine, family-run business beyond a century. Great people. They sold high quality bulk powders before people were even selling bulk powders. The patriarch, Warren, I think his name was, great guy. He used to spend hours on the phone with me. He passed away and the company went out of business shortly thereafter. I was told repeated FDA inspections, which they always passed, growing FDA compliance issues, and the associated expenses, and an extremely small profit margin on bulk stuff led to their demise. So it begs the question, who has passed the test of time? A couple of companies come to mind. Beverly International, which I think is down your way.
Yeah, I mean, they started out in Beverly Hills. The Beverly Hills Health Club was a very affluent health club, and so they spun off their own line of supplements. And then a couple, Richard, and I can't think of their last name right now, but in Northern Kentucky, they bought the brand and everything, and they've kept it alive ever since.
Yeah, and they are, if I'm not mistaken, they are still making medical grade proteins. They sell to hospitals in some cases. Mass, who you guys know about, they've been in business for 27 years. There's not much flash or sizzle, but they got a lot of stake insofar as high quality proteins and amino type formulas. Nutrabio is another company. A lot of people think they're new, but they've been around for 25 years. I think they're out of New Jersey. Those three companies are standouts, and they've been around that long because they treat their customers right. Okay. There are, of course, others, but the key point I'm trying to make here is this: the vast, vast majority of these sports nutrition companies have gone under. They're unable to stand that test of time. I keep talking.
And you know what? I've seen this. So I've been doing this show for 16 years. I go back into the list of old sponsors because I want to reach out to them and say, hey, we want to come back. They're all out of business.
Yeah, isn't it crazy?
It is crazy.
Yeah. So, and in some cases it was due to a change in ownership, and others, they made bad bets, right? On a single class of product. You can put Whey Natural in there too.
Oh, remember him? I forgot. Thomas Whittingham says Sandy Ridinger owns Beverly. Yes, her and her husband. That's true.
Good people. Good, by all accounts, very good people. But I honestly think the biggest reason these companies failed can be summed up in one word: ego. They seem to think once they got to a certain level that they would never go out of business. The market would never change and their customers would never leave. Remember this about never. Never is a real long time. So whenever you hear someone use that term or some company use that word, take note whatever statement they're making, because it probably is not going to age well. Never is a real long time. Now, I can't tell you, I don't have a crystal ball. I can't say Beverly, Mass, or any of the other companies that have been around a long time will still be around. What I can tell you is that if there's one common denominator between in these companies' longevity, it is somebody at the top who eats, breathes, and lives the kind of lifestyle that we do, that they sell to, right? They sell their products to. They are athletes, first and foremost, not chain smokers. As the owner of one of the biggest companies that was ever out there, I dealt with him. He was a chain smoker. He didn't work out at all. He chain smoked cigarettes and put out sports nutrition products. Think about that. It's just insane. These people in the good companies, the people at the top, they use their own products, they believe in their products, and they invest in them. Oftentimes without the flashy labels, without the juiced up pro bodybuilders, saying, I use this guy's product to look like this. Come on. I don't, maybe that still works. Maybe the kids still buy based on that. I don't know. But if I see an ad like that by a company, I just run the other way. Look, the next time you plunk down your hard-earned money, ask yourself, is this the kind of company and the kind of people that I want to support?
How do you know? A lot of times you don't see the leaders of the company.
It's hard.
That the leaders are out in front, and you actually point at them and go, I know that guy. I buy supplements from him.
Yeah. Today it's the web, right? I mean, you're never going to get a feel for someone through the web. Now, in the old days, you could pick the phone up, call their 800 number, and talk to them like I did. In some cases, a little too much. But I'll tell you,
AST research. I mean, you talked about it before. I kind of got off the air for a second. But I was buying Andro from them, a couple different ones, 19 Nor and Androstina Diol and 5 Diol. And I would squeeze in the caps, and some of them were packed and some of them were empty. And I brought them to a pharmacy. This is when I first started to take Andro. This is like 20-something years ago. And I was like, the pharmacist weighed it, and he was like, yeah, some of these capsules are empty. I called them up. Now, what should they have done? They should have sent me a bottle, right? You know what they told me? We'll give you a discount when you make your next purchase, but you have to purchase it through us. And it was like twice as expensive to purchase it through them than like a GNC.
Right. Why would you pay?
That was no discount. Yeah, and why would I want to buy a second bottle if your quality control is this horrible?
Right. That's like saying, well, okay, we're going to keep doing that. Here's a discount. So.
Yeah, here's a discount so it doesn't hurt as much next time. Yeah.
Yeah. So look, all I wanted to say here is this, guys. Support the brands and the people that you know to be that have stood the test of time, that are true to label, and that are honest in their marketing, and make an attempt anyway to get to know the people behind the products and the company. Because if things keep going the way they have been, we may not have supplement companies to buy from anymore. You know, by supporting the good guys, you ensure that we, our kids, and the future generations have access to inexpensive, relatively effective, natural, over-the-counter items that enhance your quality of life. That is in danger of going away when there is such a small number of companies that do business the right way, innovate, or otherwise do whatever they can and bend over backwards for the customer.
So Bob Stefanos wants to know, and I have to end the show soon because two things. I got to pee really bad, and I don't have a bottle to pee in. Bob Stefanos wants to know, what do you think? Who are the good guys? Can you list them?
Well, you know, Mass is up there, Beverly's up there, Nutrabio.
Redcon is up there, and I'll tell you what, a lot of people like pissed off at Aaron because of what happened at Blackstone, but everything that Redcon produces is top notch, everything.
Yeah, it's it can be difficult. There's no question about it. Maybe that's next week's project. I'll try to put a short list together for you guys.
Yeah, let's do that.
Because it's important to support the right people, support the sponsors of the show. Listen, you know, nobody subscribes to the Bulletin. This show doesn't happen. That's the truth, you know.
Yeah, I got to bounce too. Rob Robertson said, need to bounce. Thanks for the advice. Everything written down, and I will make contact with Master John. Cool. Yes, and I have to bounce too because I have a Zoom call after this, and I got to go make pee-pee really bad. Really, really bad. And my prostate's healthy, I'll tell you that right now, but I got to go. Right. Yeah, look, real quick. I've had great luck with Keon Grand. Yeah, Ben Greenfield, solid dude, produces great products. Yeah, let's put a list together. Not sure if I made it in time. Any supplements to help with hair loss? Sorry, brother. That'll have to go on next week's top.
Minoxidil at Walmart. It's cheap enough.
There you go. GHKCU. I'll tell you. We'll answer this question next week. And R. Vasquez says, thank you. And thank you all for being here. And thank you for all the wonderful questions. We'll answer that question next week about hair loss. We will.
Cool.
Rob, thanks for all the heavy lifting, brother.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me here.
All right. See everybody next week. Thank you. We'll have a good show tomorrow. I don't know what it is. I got to go pee. Talk to you later. Bye.